All right, welcome back to another episode of Rise Urban Nation, where we spotlight the journeys, transformational leaders across the Black and Pan African diaspora. Now, let me ask you this, everybody. What if fear wasn't something to avoid, but it's something to understand and even embrace? Our guest today, Nicholas Dillon, is a motivational powerhouse, leadership expert, and the founder of Believe Wellness Center. He spent over 2 days helping people and organizations turn fear into fuel. And today, he's going to teach us how to see fear as sexy. Yes, you heard me, as sexy. I questioned it too. I was clowning him in the green room before we get started. I like, what is this thing that you about to do? But let's get into the episode. Nicholas, how are you doing today, good sir?
How are you, sir? Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and excited to share and dialogue with you.
Yeah. For those who are not knowing you or us in our journey, this journey goes back to New York last year. Was it around this time in New York we was down there?
Yeah, in about a couple months, September.
In a couple months. Oh man, a couple months would be a year. We got to tell Jamar to we need to have a 1 year celebration or something.
That's right. That's
I
right.
mean, he's already going to be doing the event out there in Milwaukee. Is that at the same time as that we had the event last year?
No, it's a couple months early. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we need to find some way to celebrate. But I mean, I remember first meeting you at that event in New York, and some of the motivational things around belief systems and values and so forth, how you interjected that into our businesses and life during that time. I was very inspired and it spoke to me. And it's something I try to do here. So I'm just glad to have you on the show. Thank you for everything you do. But before we go down the rabbit hole of sexy and all this other stuff you about to talk to us about, let's rewind a bit. Can you tell me a bit about your journey? How did you go from counseling and corporate leadership to becoming this motivational force and mindset coach?
Yes, thank you so much. It's been an interesting journey. I call it to the helping profession. I ultimately believe that the helping profession is has came to be my calling and purpose in life. Started out in the corporate field, if you will, doing actually working in insurance and the risk management field, and from there shifted into kind of the corporate training and development, learning and development, and also leadership development. And what I was finding doing a lot of the leadership development training, my survey results and individuals would come after those sessions and say, this was great. It got me. It motivated me. It really inspired me, but I need more. Can you support me beyond this learning? And that took me down the path of coaching and consulting and willing to support clients even beyond the learning. So I started and developed my own learning and development and consulting company in Wisconsin, and in 2021 relocated to here in Dallas and started another company here in Dallas that also does counseling and coaching and supporting in that area as well. And then as a therapist also, I do a lot of recovery work, so I specialize in addiction counseling, and all of what I do is around mindset. And so, what's interesting about this journey is I used to do a lot in the network marketing field. So, I was one of those who bought into the whole system of business. And so I joined a whole bunch of different, network marketing things, and I had
On purpose?
on purpose, intentionally,
Okay.
and had, and I'm just going to be transparent with you, thousands and thousands of boxes of product in my garage and all over, and selling this and marketing that, and I had this aha moment one day in meditation, and God told me that if you will just shift all of this energy into the purpose of which I've given you, I will show you how it can sustain you. But there's just one caveat. And the caveat is, I need you to do it all centered around the word believe. And
Mm.
literally, from that transformational process, now close to 20 years ago, I have been working in the space of mindset and beliefs in everything I do, from speaking even internationally to coaching to counseling to consulting. I'm always taking clients back to the mindset of our beliefs. And that is near and dear to my heart because part of who I am is the growth and development from starting, I would say, age 16. And I use that age as a pivoting point because that was the age where bullying was so hard for me. And I had some medical things that I was suffering from that at that time I planned my own suicide.
Mm.
And from that pivot, I started the journey of self development, working on me, loving me, embracing me, and really unpacking a lot of those old beliefs and programs
Mm.
that were no longer serving me. And on this journey, I've learned that even as we continue to grow and I grow, you are always unpacking. And because it's an amazing thing of what the unconscious mind brings along for the ride, and we have to discover it and uncover it in our growth journey. So it brings us to where we are today in this work that I do as a coach, as a counselor, as a consultant, as a speaker, just really helping folks get their beliefs in alignment with their passion and purpose.
I love that. You gotta believe. Belief and mindset are a lot of good core tools that can just redirect somebody's life. And I mean, it's transformed yours, obviously, from being that young kid that got bullied and finding how you can readjust and love yourself through all of those things. So thank you for sharing that very personal testimony. Um, just out of curiosity, did we're like uh, uh, I know somewhere. I'm not sure where in the journey you met Jamar. How did Jamar come into the picture of this story? Like,
Yes,
how did you guys link up? I never asked that story.
yes. So I actually met Jamar. I'm was part of an organization, nonprofit organization, National Black MBA Association in Wisconsin. And so I met him at a Bucks game,
Mm.
Milwaukee Bucks game. We had an event. Our president invited him, and in that just kind of social arena, we start talking, and I was sharing to him about some things that I was doing. And at that time, I really wanted to expand in video and do some things. And at that time he was saying he did photography and videos. He was promoting that and was just kind of starting his business up. And from that meeting, it led to I invited him to my office and I shared my vision of I did a live event, Think and Believe Live, each year. And I asked him, I said, hey, I need somebody to cover that. And I need somebody to support me in some things that I want to do to expand my business. And so he became my guy. He became my person that supported me in videos, that supported me in events. And him and his team at the time did some amazing work for me over the years. And from there, I referred him to this person, that person, because I believe in supporting one another, and also, especially when one another does great work for each other.
Mm.
And I think we, in my mind, can't get enough advocacy and support for one another. So happy to see him grow, happy to see him expand, and he is a excellent example of staying focused and believing beyond what he could see. And so it has taken him to some great places and some high heights, and more to come for him. So that's kind of how, and we've just stayed connected over the years. And I've been or at least tried to be a great mentor for him as well, somebody he can talk to and lean on, and just really kind of support him through his process and his journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you know, belief is so ingrained in you and your soul that you believed in this young man, and you had that belief in that young man allowed you to work with that young man, and then that young man believed in himself, and then that belief led to the belief of this vision and carrying and staying through it. Like, but word believe is all in you. It's running through your body, your bones. You just can't just get it out.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
now, now I believe. See what I did there? I believe in our green room, you was talking real spicy about the sexy side of fear. Like, you gotta, you was talking about it. Can you break that down for us? Like, where did that idea come from? And what is this thing, the sexy side of fear? Hopefully I'm saying it right. You break this analogy down for me, please.
Yes, yes, yes. So I like to I like the idea and the concept because
Okay.
I was thinking about the correlation of fear and failure.
Hmm.
And oftentimes when we embark on something in life, especially entrepreneurship, one of the biggest things that is a hindrance to us is the fear of failure, the fear that it won't work, the fear that I won't be good enough, the fear that I won't be supported. And that failure is so humiliating as the really lowest result of what could happen. Is so then fear becomes this big prominent thing that prevents us from moving forward. And so what we don't realize is that the fear of failure is really not it. It's the belief in our mindset about ourselves that gives fear of failure the power. And so I said, hey, let me just make a twist to this and have people see this concept of the fear of failure as more of a sexy thing than something that is, hey, let me shy away from it. Because when we think of something as sexy, what is that means we got our eyes on it. That means we're thinking about it. That means sometimes we're preoccupied with it. That also means we're leaning into it. Okay? And that also means we're willing to take some risks with it. Okay? And so when we're thinking about this, the first concept I thought about as you look at it from a fear of failure standpoint is that we have to understand that before we can get to success in most of the things that we do, we have to do what first? Oftentimes we fail. Oftentimes we don't get it right the first time. Oftentimes we have roadblocks. Sometimes we start and stop. But we need to remember that failure is part of the journey.
Yes.
And if I remember that failure, not fear, is part of the journey, just failure is. So if I take my mindset and remove the fear of what that can look like, and I embrace it as part of the journey, then it doesn't look so fearful after all. Okay? And so when we lean into that and just appreciate that, okay, so if failure is part of the, how is that, Nick? How can failure be a part of the journey? Because every single successful individual tried several times to do some things until they really got it right. And I always use the example of software right now. We're
Mm-hmm.
always trying different things and trying different things, and some don't always work. They don't always work this time, they don't always work that time, they don't always work this time, but we usually luck upon something that we do like, it does work, and it is working for us now. But the journey to that is some things didn't work. The caveat in that is that my mindset can't shift to fail, to failure. Because when my mindset shifts to the fear of what the journey can be, then it's not a good day for us. And what I call it is that inner critic.
Mm-hmm.
The inner critic, which can be the saboteur or whatever you want to call it, the ego or whatever, however people want to call it, is always looking to protect us. So the fear of failure is the inner critic saying, you're not good enough, so you won't try. So you won't look at it as part of the journey. And the way it tries to keep itself sustainable is it's got to go back. And so when the mindset goes back and say, because you did that last time and didn't work, or you know what I'm saying, or you tried before and it didn't work, or you know you can't do this, then with them two together, that power of the feel of failure becomes really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way out of it is here. I got to snap out of it and say, okay, hold up. Have I really failed if I abstract from this what I learned from the failure? And I actually continue going forward because it's a journey. So
Mm-hmm.
failure doesn't happen and the fear doesn't have to happen if our mindset doesn't think that way. Okay? So
So
part
true.
of that means I got to be really, really good with me. And sometimes we might have to unpack some things, or sometimes we might have to go back in our past and heal some things so that fear doesn't look like this big horrid thing, but rather, hey, I kind of like that. That sounds
Mm-hmm.
appealing to me. I want to lean into that. I want to see what that learns me and how that grows me, because the only way you can grow to perfect something is I got to keep trying to see if different things work. Well, I never get there if the mindset doesn't say, hey, don't even try it. It's too bad. It's, because the reality is all we got is now. And so when you find yourself negotiating out of the future you don't even have, you way down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. So
Okay?
true.
And when you find yourself pulling from a past that don't exist no more, you're way down the rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to embrace the now and the purpose for which we're going for. I actually don't have nothing to lose because all I got is now. And if I try this thing and I get good at this thing, then I can really intentionally move forward because I'm going to learn some lessons from this. And so that's the second thing. And then the third thing I would say is, and I love this because part of the journey of just, I'll just say in this business that I have been in, is there's been some things that didn't work or that I didn't like or I did and they didn't work. And I actually laughed at it. I found
Okay,
some
now,
humor in
now,
it.
now I need to hear a story about this. Like, because
Okay.
I can't picture you
Okay.
have it. Well, I mean, I can picture you have, but like, I'm curious to know, like, like, what was one of those stories or personal stories that was like a turning point
Yes.
that you had in your life that helped you put this all into perspective?
Yes. And I'll give you a good example of laughter. So I had did this video. I said I'm going to try to start doing some videos. This is a couple years ago. I was going to try to start doing some videos, and I want to really see how this works. So I'm going to kind of do a test run to see, hey, is this, is this good? And so
Hmm.
our normal thing for ourselves is that I always say we are our worst critic. And we are our most critical folks. So part of perfectionism is we believe it has to be crispy and everything's got to be, the dots have to be crossed and the I's have to be dotted and all of that thing has to happen before we let the public see. And so I had put this video together, but I was just doing kind of a one, two, three testing. Just want to make sure my sound is good. I'm trying out this video and I think I want to do this. And I think I want to put it out there to the world and tell them I'm going on live and this, that, and the other. And, but what I did was when I was done with the video, I accidentally hit upload. But I never went back until maybe some hours later and folks saw it online. And
Oh
people were
no.
laughing and joking and cracking up and saying, yes, it's working. Yeah, we can see you. Yeah, I'm glad you figured it out. And I laughed and laughed and laughed. But what was interesting, in- instantly, I was like, I can't believe I did this. So right there, instantly fear tried to overpower that thing and go, you just messed up and you look totally crappy because it wasn't together and you put that out there. And then I saw the comments. There was not a negative comment, which showed me, and you've heard me say this, all roads lead back to me. So this moment is really in my head. And so it doesn't have to be the greatest because I just put something out there that was just a test of me just playing around and being goofy. And I got positive feedback from it. So it showed me again how to keep trying. What did I learn from that? I learned that it doesn't have to be perfect, Nick. Just put it out there. It's the message. People were answering the question that I'm saying, hey, I'm testing to see if this is going live and if it's live and if it works. They're literally listening to me and answering the question. And it wasn't even nothing for them. I'm just playing around. And it really showed me that I got to get out of my own way. And by getting out of my own way, the fear becomes more sexy than not.
Yeah. I love that. I love that whole story and analogy. Um, I was over here thinking, you know, one, this is jokingly, like, man, even him playing around is good content. I'm gonna have to step my game up just a little bit.
Yes.
I hope my playing around content could compete on my worst day
Yes.
with some good content.
Yes. And then keep in mind, we have seen lots of just cut the camera on foolishness
Uh-huh.
that becomes millions of views content.
Mhm.
So when you have a message from the heart and a message to support, a message to embody, a message to really inspire, it should have a whole lot more weight and you feel good about that messaging as you continue to do the work that the individuals do. and
Yeah.
and part of the journey is that if we remove fear out of it and really keep in mind what's our perspective, what is
Mhm.
our objective, if we keep in mind the big picture, then we recognize that it's a journey and that's going to be a process. And so that big picture, I'm always thinking of in the back of my head that this may be one video now, and it may be like, for example, this is now 2 years ago now when I told myself, hey, I want to get on TikTok and I want to make sure that I'm on TikTok and I want to post at least one video a day. And all before TikTok, I kept saying, I don't know TikTok. the learning curve is too great. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
familiar with how to do this. I don't know how to edit videos. I don't know how to put stuff together. I don't get this. And all that was creating a great way for me to say, and so no, I'll self-select out and I won't even try. Why? Because of
Yeah.
the fear of failure. Fear wasn't looking
Mm-hmm.
sexy to me. Failure was looking real good because
Mm.
I wasn't gonna try.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was my granddaughter whom I went on TikTok and saw, and I asked her, how did you do that? And she said so nonchalantly that it's easy, Poppy. I just did this. And I'm saying to myself, okay, now if she can figure it out and she's not intimidated by no stretch of the imagination, I got to be willing to figure this out. So
Yeah.
what did I do? The curiosity, which means I'm leaning in. So now fear don't look so bad. It kind of looks, okay, let me kind of try this out. Let me look at this because this is kind of looking curious. And I know, hey, if I keep trying, it's a journey, I'll get better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I began day one, January 1st, and I did a video every single day for the most part for the entire year.
Mm.
And I was extremely proud of myself. And as part of that journey, I had some good videos, some bad videos. I put them up there anyway. But I
Mm-hmm.
got to learn Canva
Mm-hmm.
much better by practicing every single day.
So
So,
true.
again, all about it's not failure until the mindset says it is and you self select out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that continuous leaning in, that continuous trying, and like I say, you don't want to become so familiar with failure and fear. You
Mm-hmm.
just want to, embrace it as part of the journey, meaning that it may happen and it might not happen, but no matter what, I'm going to still do it. I'm gonna keep leaning in. I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna keep trying to figure it out. It's kind of like riding a bike. And when I first tried to ride the bike, I was falling, and I was falling,
Mm-hmm.
and I tried to do it without the training wheels, and I was falling. But the fear was I would fall. But I leaned into the possibility that what if I don't? What if I keep trying and ultimately I actually get it? Then I'm like, what could this look like? And eventually I was so focused on the journey of riding without the training wheels that I got it. Now, what's so amazing as a caveat to this is I bought my son a bike with the training wheels on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was always happy to drive it because the training wheels were on it. So he never had this fear of falling because the training wheels were on it. And so he would lean to this side, lean to that side. And what ended up happening was before he knew it, the training wheels had bent up. He was getting on the bike thinking he was riding with the training wheels, and they were bent up. He was no longer driving with the training wheels because he had came off of the mindset of the training wheels are there, but really they're not. I had to tell him your training wheels are up. So you've been riding the bike all along without the training wheels.
Mm.
So it's a great example of how the mind can shift in a space that takes us to where we want to go. We just got to not go down the rabbit hole. And the reason we go down the rabbit hole is backwards and that fear of what forward looks like.
Yeah. You know, my it's funny that you mentioned that example because my daughter was the same way. She had the bike with the training wheels, um, and we she got too big for that bike, right? And so our my brother-in-law donated a bike that was a more grown-up bike, which was her her kid's bike who had outgrown it, and then so now she had this new bike, but she couldn't fit the other bike anymore. And I was like, all right, we're gonna try to ride this new bike, right? And she just had so much blockage in her mind that she could not ride this bike and didn't want to try. And then, do you know, after we got over that, it only took a day for her to get over that mind blockage, and she's zooming around up and down the park after she's like, oh, I got this. It's like, see, all you needed to do, we need to get you out here. I gave her a quick balance and so forth, but she had it the whole time. But she was willing, she was so scared to ride this bike, did not want to ride this bike, wanted to ride a bike with training wheels on it until she felt comfortable, and that was the blockage. And then now she just took this girl a day just to figure that out. So I love that analogy. The other thing I'm sitting with and I'm thinking about is when you get past that fear and you lean into curiosity, I think that forward momentum, just it's just the continuous progression of forward momentum and getting
Yes,
one step each and every day is a beautiful thing that you don't fall in love with that journey, and then each step forward is a compound on getting better towards
yes,
where you want to be and where you want to go. So that's what I
absolutely,
love in your story.
absolutely.
I want to ask you this, because so many people in our community, especially in our Black community, who are aspiring to be consultants, entrepreneurs, or in the field, right?
Hmm.
This is my own personal perspective that sometimes I sense a fear, or fear is masked by hustle or silence. And what do you say to someone who's successful on the outside but battling anxiety or self doubt underneath?
What I will say, especially someone who's looking to become an entrepreneur or really take that stretch, and even if they're lurking with the fear of failure, in all honesty, I would say do the inner work before you start.
Mm,
Because if you start with the anxiety and the fear that doesn't let you move forward in a way of curiosity, then the I say that fear then becomes your kryptonite.
mm,
And it becomes that battle that holds you back, because you will be looking in the past way too much, and that ego and inner critic will be there, and the inner critic will use the fear and the anxiety to cripple and stun the growth. Because you got to remember this, we all always have had limitless possibilities. The limitless possibilities is a mindset. It exists already. So how you start is how you see you. So if you don't see the limitless possibilities or the potential in you for the journey, it's going to have every bit to do with how you start. And so some people start with the if mindset. I will start if my wife supports me. I will start if mama says it's a good idea. I will start if my friend says, hey, you can do it. I will start if I got the resources. Okay? So all of that becomes amplified, but whose voice is the loudest, really? Your own.
mm-hmm,
And so oftentimes we reduce ourselves to lean into what this is around us. So this feel good adrenaline or anesthetizer that pushes us out there. And then when we're out there and a lot of this stuff goes away that's external and we're stuck with just us, we default to where the mindset is. And if the inner critic is not with it, that's why 9 out of 10 businesses fail. because they don't believe they can make it in the first place.
Mm.
So when people ask me, and it's really funny that people will ask, like it's June now, and somebody may say, "Well, what are you going to do in September? Well, what are you going to do for the holiday?" And it's hard to explain, but as an entrepreneur, you're never operating on a day of deficit in the mindset. So you're operating each and every day as though it is.
Mm-hmm.
So you're manifesting in your mind and you're believing not only in the present, but also in the forward that it's just going to be. And when you operate in that space on a daily basis, things start to come into alignment because you show up with intentionality. And you put yourself in places and spaces that allows for things to happen the way they should. When your mindset is not there, you show up differently or not at all. And then we wonder why things are not falling into place. Because when you believe, your language changes, your mindset shifts, your people in your circle change. You're putting yourself in places and spaces so that things can happen as you believe they will, and you're also trusting the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so true. Because that once you get to doing the work, you're not swayed by what others or reliant on what others think or feel or need you to do, because it's you versus you then, and it's not. I, of course, you're looking for how can you synergize with the right people who are around you to move the thing forward, but
Mm-hmm.
they're not the excuse for why something moves forward or why you continue to move forward. Like, uh, yeah. So my thing is, what is the work? I, I know you mentioned it. They need to work on themselves. What is the work specifically
Yes,
that they need to do?
yes, great question. And I'll give myself as an example.
Uh-huh.
Part of this journey, and as you heard me mentioned earlier, planned attempted suicide at 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of that was a very, very low self image, very low self esteem, and also the subconscious mind had created a belief of not being good enough, not being worthy, not deserving. And that manifested itself between my formative years, let's say between 0 to 7. And so as I got older and you start to get that rational mindset and thinking, and you want to try to disrupt some of that, you don't realize the depth of what that work looks like. And when you fast forward into adulthood and we decide we want to get involved in some things, whether it's leadership or even go for a job and do some things or work with folks as a team, whatever that looks like, some of that subconscious stuff surfaces. And you may have experiences where you are, I won't say triggered, I'll say emotionally activated.
Emotionally activated. I'm gonna have to borrow that one.
Okay? And you are emotionally activated, or as because it's so unpredictable, I'll go a step further and say accidentally activated. And you're accidentally activated by the experience that happened back that reminds you today you're not good enough. And the experience has an attachment to it, which brings that feeling to heart and mind that says, I'm not good enough. So, as such, I self select out. I don't start. I delay. I procrastinate. I do all those things because That attachment to the past also predicts my future as bad also. And it is so strong that the work that I got to do is I got to go back to that experience and let my 57-year-old self talk to my 7-year-old self.
Mm.
And I gotta remind my 7-year-old self that it's okay
Yeah.
and allow that to
Now,
heal and and really work on that so that that healing removes the emotional attachment to the right now situation. And in order for you to go forward with the vision of where you want to go in life, sometimes you got to use that same self talk to remind you of how you got here.
mm-hmm.
And so, too often, I will tell you, folks don't want to do the work
Mm-hmm.
because it's inner work. And nobody can
And
do
it's
that
hard,
work for you, and
and
it's hard.
it's not always easy.
It's not always easy, it's hard. No one can do that work but you.
Because to add on to your point, because I go to therapy too, and I do. The work is always constant. You're never done doing the work, right? And here's the thing they don't tell you: it's like it's not a one and done, because there's the 15-year-old version of myself. Then there's the 7-year-old
Mm-hmm.
version of myself. Then there's the 27-year-old version of
Yep.
myself that all has scars, and I need to go back to that version of self. And sometimes th- it's not a one and done with that 7-year-old version of myself or that 27. There's a there's a repeated conversation
You're right.
that happens.
You're absolutely right. And I'm always asking, we've got to constantly remind ourselves and ask ourselves, what version of ourselves are we showing up with? Because we
Mm,
all age with time, but lack of growth and development, if we don't daily strive to be the next version of ourselves that we can, then we stay in a space mentally and emotionally that could very well be 10 years old, that could
mm,
very well be 7 years old, even though I'm in an adult body and an adult person, but I'm working with that mindset that hasn't healed. And
mm-hmm,
I'm working with that mindset that wants to hold on to some things, that don't want to let go of some things, that need to, process some things and really let go of some things, and even in sometimes forgive some things. And so part of this journey is giving grace to ourselves,
mm-hmm,
giving compassion and empathy to ourselves, because the next best version of us needs to continue to grow to exist, because guess what? New level, new devil.
mm. Ain't that right?
So
Man.
I gotta keep working on this me so that I am equipped to be
Mm-hmm,
the better version of myself, so that as life happens in the now,
mm-hmm.
I can handle it in the now.
Yeah, yeah,
That's huge.
that is
And
huge,
and I
and that's
off
and that's why.
the best example I can give you is, can I give you a 1993 phone and you be okay with it?
Nah, it's not gonna be sufficient for this time and era.
Absolutely. We all want the latest and the greatest, but we don't want the latest and the greatest of us.
Mm. But I take that back. Some old timers like that old 1993 phone. They don't want nothing different. They all I need is to dial these numbers. That's it.
That's right. That's right.
I know some old timers that really like their 1993 flip phone and they ain't trading it for the world.
That's right. That's right. They don't like change and they don't want to change. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely
But
right.
they are very content. But all jokes aside, I don't like to to be able to show up in the now, you definitely have to work on self. You have to center all these core principles. I think that's why they say there's that old saying, that hurt people, and if you don't deal with your hurt self, you're gonna show up as your hurt self and hurt other people. So and heal people. So if you heal, then you could show up in the now as your present self. You have the ability to transform spaces, places, and situations. So
That's true.
do the work to heal, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'm saying.
That's right.
Um, now Nick, you help thousands of individuals and organizations. What's one transformation that really stands out to you? Something that reminds you of why you do this work.
I will tell you when I'll give an example. I won't name the client. I won't name the client, but I just is a coaching client, and I coached this individual for about 6 months. We'll say
Mm-hmm.
about 6 months. And when I started coaching this individual, they suffered really bad from imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some stuff in the past that was really, really holding them back. And this is one individual of many
Mm-hmm.
because these transformations are priceless for me and always amplifies why I do the work. And over the course of months of working together, we unpacked some things. We overcame that fear of failure. We overcame that fear of success. And all about just really unpacking this, the mind and heart, and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable to the possibility that I really am enough.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, calling our attention to how did you get here? How did you get here? And this young lady was a recent graduate of in getting her master's degree in a nurse practitioner,
Mm.
and was like next level in terms of employment,
Nice.
and but doubted. The doubt was so strong, and to work and unpack that and have the patience to keep leaning into that and working on that, and now to where she is now, not only passing the national exam and now finding employment as a nurse practitioner in her ideal role and area of focus, has totally did a 180 on her life.
That's beautiful.
And I could never be so happy and proud of her. And all I did was supported her as an accountability partner, unpacking some things, uncovering some things, and allowing her to see in her
Mm-hmm.
what she believed was external.
Yeah.
And so much of this work that we have to do as professionals, it's not like, hey, let me look and get this and get that, and I need this person to work with me, and I need that person to work with me. You can have all the systems in front of you. If this and this is not right, you're not going to take action. Not at the level that you need to.
Yeah. It'll be just you're going through the motions, with no real focus and intent and precision. And um, when you're in purpose, on purpose, you, the way you move is very precise and persistent and intentful and thoughtful. And so, I'm curious, because we talked about dealing with this, and maybe not so dealing with it, but working through, getting curious, and the things of that nature. What are some of your, I guess, go-to tools or techniques when someone's feeling really stuck or overwhelmed?
One of the greatest tools that I have, and you've experienced this now, is I go back to your values.
Mm,
And so part of this is you got to know what drives and motivates you.
yeah.
And so every client does a values exercise,
Hmm.
and we do a I do a risk reward exercise so they can see how much self-defeating beliefs are impacting them. And I do the values exercise as part of my coaching, and I do a real deep dive into that so they can see what motivates them.
Mm.
Be, because most people will say, hey, you know, I don't know my why. And how do I figure out my why? Well, your values drive your why. And the values exercise can be challenging because oftentimes we've never looked at it or did the exercise ourselves. But once you do that, I'm always taking you back to not only once you truly see your values on paper, who knows that more than you do? How do you show up honoring those values? In what ways have you dishonored them? Who have you allowed to dishonor them? How do you want to show up going forward that honors your values intentionally now that you have put on paper what they are? And when you do those type of exercises and you're checking in on a regular basis as to that self-check, am I honoring or dishonoring? It's a game changer with the mindset, because in there you're shifting some beliefs and you're really finding, no, this means a lot to me. And that's the reason I often say, when you're communicating with someone and working with someone and dealing with even your team members or your leader, or you're the leader dealing with your team members or other departments, the first thing to find out why the breakdown in communication, we don't understand each other's values.
Mm.
We don't understand what's pushing and motivating. And oftentimes, when I understand your values, I understand who you are. I understand why your language sounds the way it does. I understand why you pushed back on that agenda. I understand why that email rubbed you the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I dishonored you and I didn't know that I did.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that's such the foundation that a lot of organizations miss. Because I remember when you did that exercise with us when we were out in New York, and I was like, oh man, this is it was profound for me because it made me, go back to my past and when I first graduated college and I started working for an organization that I thought I was going to be successful in for a long time. But as I grew in that organization, I realized that, you know, I didn't know what I know now, that the organization wasn't in line with my values. So that's why I, I, I could not never reach a level of success there. And I knew I had to walk away because one of the things is that this organization cared about profit over people, right? And that just did not sit right or align with my values. And the more I started to, work my way off of one side of being on the sales floor and up into the organization where I could have moved up, and I saw that clear shift and like, oh, what's happening down here is not the reality of what's happening over here. And I was like, oh, well, that's discerning. I don't know if I could conform or perform to that level because when I was over here, I was under the belief that we cared about the people first. But now that I don't know, now that I know we don't care about the people first, it's hard for me to perform at that level, right? And put all of my energy and precision and focus into it because it's just not lining up with
Mm-hmm.
who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think companies need to understand that like there's tangible results to the value system of what people believe, and and it's and it's managers need to understand it's not just about money too, right? Like some people say, oh well, the value is the money. No, that's a secondary thing. That's
Mm-hmm.
help us get to how we pay our bills or how we want to live our life, right? But it is not the thing that helps us to perform at a high level, right?
That's right.
At least most of us,
That's
I
right.
would say.
That's
Yeah.
right. That is, you gave an amazing example of what that can look like. And then when you find yourself in situations like that and you choose to step away, there is a level of resolve like you could not imagine. And
Mm-hmm.
you leave with a level of self worth because when you choose not to dishonor you, you also acknowledge your value.
Mm. Yes.
And you know what that value is going inside an organization. And it was not uncommon for me, even in contracting interviews with potential clients, to
Mm-hmm.
just ask value questions. Because
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going to serve you in a capacity of the work that I do, I've got to know that I am not checking a box for you,
Mm-hmm.
but that working with me will be transformational. And we were talking about DEIB work earlier, and during the early and even later part of the pandemic, I got lots of calls to work in the capacity of diversity, equity, and inclusion training, and even got offered roles and all of this stuff. And a lot of the organizations could not answer the simple question of how does DEIB align with your business model?
Mm-hmm.
How do you define it in your organization? Now make the connection to the mission, vision, and value of your organization for me so I can understand how that will connect with my role inside your organization.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of opportunities were missed for me because I just didn't feel like the dots were connected
Mm-hmm.
for me to lean in time, energy, and resources into an organization that wouldn't be in alignment with what I'm standing for.
Mm. Yeah. And that's so important when we fast forward to back to our conversation we were having earlier. Like when we look at the work that's happening today, or the work that's being undone today around diversity, equity, inclusion. Like if it wasn't aligned, then you know centering those values, when you have to go away from using the words and doing the actual work is going to be harder for most than some, because it's not ingrained in the DNA. It's not aligned in any other aspects of the work that you do, and so it's much harder to do the work going forward when you strip out the words,
Mm-hmm.
because people don't know what to do then,
Right?
right? Because it's not ingrained in anything else. And you don't really need something you said earlier was beautiful. What did you say to me earlier, around about the work being connected and doing the work? I can't think. It's at the tip of my tongue. Do you remember what you said?
The work. So the work has to be connected with who you are and the value of who you are. And if there's not a connection there, then why are we doing the work? And as you just spoke in that example, I would even call listeners to realize, especially HR practitioners, how often have we found the safe place to tell someone when we've got to let them know that their behavior is not in alignment with the organization's values.
Mm.
So they're standing on that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear that, you got to appreciate that the folks that work here have to be in alignment with the values of which we stand on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a safe place to land because that's not personal.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I say about that is, as an HR practitioner, is though although those conversations can be hard, there's also a easiness to it, because if their values weren't aligned in the first place, then how do you get them to a place where they can go and really thrive, where their values are in alignment, because it's not here. So it would be a disservice for that person to stay in an organization that's not aligned to the values, because they would just be miserable at their work, and nobody wants to come to work miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So I, this is, life is happening for you where you get to make now this pivot and try to go find something that can align more to your values and
Right.
really uplifts what you want and what you need to be fulfilled in life. And I know that's a hard thing to swallow when people are in those conversations, but I've heard plenty of times from folks when I've had those conversations and in different places and spaces where they much later down the road, right? They're like, that was the best thing that could have happened for me because it allowed me to get to here, right? It's just hard to see it in the moment. So
Right.
I appreciate everything that you're saying.
It's interesting when you mention that. It just it and I liken this to. I always put this out there so people can just think about it from a mindset standpoint. Every organization cannot afford for you to be excellent. So everyone inside the organization is never going to be excellent, and the organization knows that. Because if we all showed up to work and we were excellent and operating in excellence, then they would have a budget crisis. Okay? However, 95% of the workforce is operating in average. So, therefore, the budget can have some fluctuations. And so, 95% of the workforce is showing up in average. So, which means they're driven by compensation and benefits. Okay? We are in a space today where a lot of individuals are taking a step back and saying, beyond the compensation and beyond the benefits, my mental and emotional wellness is more important for me. Value alignment is more important for me. Understanding my why is much more important for me. As those numbers grow, it'll be interesting to see how our workforce evolves beyond that. And so I can see it in my coaching clients. I can see it in my counseling clients, in my questions that come up in training and development of, you know, this gives me a different perspective. I, I want to make sure there's alignment. I want to make sure that I'm supporting not only myself but those team members that I lead. I want to advocate, and I want to be an advocator for them, and that requires value alignment. That requires understanding the mission, vision, value of why you're there, and why you chose that organization beyond whatever their compensation was, so that you're not caught up in the loop
Mm-hmm.
of I'm in here. It saddens me to hear employees say, "But Nick, I can't leave. It's not working for me. There's no value alignment, but I cannot leave because I have this lifestyle and this lifestyle that I have to maintain, and so I cannot leave." That saddens me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to show up and play the game, even though I am not happy, even though I'm going home after work and I'm drinking or I'm anesthetizing or I'm doing all other manner of things to cope and mask and deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I got all these health things that are going on too. Why? Because there's no value alignment. I'm
Yeah.
not being fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And so it creates a demand for this work, while at the same time, I'm just hoping that more and more will lean into, let's make sure there's value alignment. Let's lean in.
Yeah.
Let's speak up.
Yeah. I'm proud of this younger generation because I think the younger generation is leaning more and more into this work, especially after what we've seen in COVID. and there's a real hunger and thirst for more of this work. If I'm being honest, and need with what I see. So I'm completely grateful and thankful that we have folks like yourself leading the charge on this work. Now, let's say if you could go back and talk to your younger self, or speak directly to the next generation of Black leaders, what is one piece of advice you would give them about success and fear?
And I would give this to my younger self and also my, we'll say, millennial self
Okay.
at the time.
I noticed you chose the millennial self. Any particular reason?
I would say the biggest reason is because all of my children are millennials.
Oh, okay, okay, gotcha.
And so my younger self would probably be my preteen self, maybe 9, 10.
Hmm.
And one of the biggest things that I would remind them to never forget is they're good enough. Never, ever, ever believe that you're not good enough. Because you're literally halfway there if you believe you can and you know what you're capable of and you believe it's for you, that it's a game changer. You will set yourself up for the greatest level of success if you believe it. And here's a interesting statistics. I think that last I heard the statistic was about 85% of men apply for jobs they are only 65% qualified for.
Mm,
And the metric actually leans more to white men.
mm. Wow,
And most of the time, they get hired.
wow.
And that was a game changer because they get hired because they believe. And they convince you that they can.
Belief is everything. Mindset over everything. Once you can believe, you can achieve.
Yep.
How do you stay so grounded and inspired while pouring into so many others?
So part of this journey is, and if I had an analogy, I would show you, we often talk about the perspective of the glass half empty or the glass half full.
Hmm.
And part of it is daily looking at my own container.
Hmm.
And so every day as I look into my own container, knowing that the outlook of the day is that I got to pour into people. So at the start of my day, my morning meditation, my workout, and my praise and worship and my messaging or my audio books I'm filling my container. So I'm filling my cup on a daily basis so that those who I have to pour in get the best of what I got. And if I stop pouring into me, then they get that glass half full, which is something, but it's not the best of what I could give them. And so I'm constantly pouring into me so that I can pour into them so that they continue to get the overflow. And yet my container continues to stay full. And so that allows me to stay grounded. That allows me to stay resilient. It allows me to continue to grow. But to your point earlier, I'm still, even to this day, and I'll tell anybody this in the spirit of transparency, but I fight that inner critic daily of not being good enough. And so it's a journey really until you're up out of here because you're reminded in every single new situation or unusual situation of that little critic. And while that critic is healed, so it's not as powerful as it used to, it does try to rear its ugly head. And I got to remind myself that no, we don't live there no more.
Yeah. But I think where we're at in this lifetime of our journey, we're able to recognize it. Um, so it does when it does rear its ugly head, we know, oh, up, there you go again, right? Versus if we didn't do the work, if it rear its ugly head, we would not understand that this is what was showing up in this time and space. So, um, all beautifully said. I'm thinking about how we started the show when we first started talking about the sexy side of fear and rewriting that mindset. And the theme song I got for you as you continue to do this work and when this episode, I don't know, for some reason I want to play that song by Justin Timberlake. I'm bringing sexy back. Eh?
Yeah.
That's what's playing off my head.
You got it. You got it. You got to embrace it because it can, it's there for you. It can work for you, but you can learn so much about you and you can
Mhm.
break some barriers and you can make some amazing things happen if you just lean into it.
Just lean in.
Lean into it.
Man, Nick, this has been phenomenal. I feel like I could talk to you for hours or forever, but I don't do like the Joe Rogan kind of podcast, at least not yet. But before we wrap up, how can people connect with you, work with you, or get support through the Believe Wellness Center? And what you got cooking for folks? What's coming up next?
Yes, thank
Give
you
them all
so
that good
much.
stuff.
Thank you so much. You can find me either under Nick Dillon on the social medias as well as the Believe Coach, and you can look through my website at nicholasdillon.com. You can reach out to me on any of those platforms from inboxing me. Click on the links on any of those platforms. I am here to serve. If you follow me on any of the platforms, I'm putting out stuff that challenges your mindset constantly. What I'm working on right now is some amazing programs, um, some coaching redesign programming that I'm working on, some unique strategy marketing. I'm really excited about developing my new VIP day, which is a deep
Mm,
dive into mindset shifting, and a master class that you'll see coming out. And I'm going to put a lot of stuff out there to really kind of support people who are willing to get out of their own way and move forward and trust the process.
love that. Alrighty, folks, you heard it. If you're ready to rethink fear and reclaim your mindset, this episode is your new blueprint. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. And until next time, make sure you keep rising and keep building. Nick, thank you as always. We appreciate you. And until the next time, peace and keep rising.